cutting, gathering and trimming of underclothing. The fashion of ready-made linen not having yet vitiated the housewifely habits of Redcastle. The lower middle classes make their own garments laboriously and are proud of their toil. The upper classes employ school children, reduced widows, or virtuous orphans for the labour, and contrive thereby to exercise a good deal of patronage at the very small expenditure. Sybil revives considerably well this week of preparation. She manages to rest a good deal, other people taking the chief burden of getting her clothes made on their shoulders. She lies on the sofa in the shabby old parlour, staring idly at the white and yellow spring flowers that brighten the dull brown beds yonder in the family garden, the white pear blossoms tossing gaily in the light April wind, the jonquils peeping over the tall box border, the sword-shaped lily of the valley leaves cleaving the damp mould in the shadow of the bulging moss-grown wall, summer's harbinger in the shape of a butterfly skimming over the tender rose leaves. A dull old house verily, a limited prospect, this long strip of walled garden, yet sweet and soothing to one who has suffered. Sweet to lie at rest on the slumberous sofa, with no thought or care for the day, and with but the vaguest thought of the morrow. If Uncle Trenchard leaves me a fortune, life will be made so easy, Sybil muses, her arms folded above her head, her eyes fixed dreamily on the waving white pearl bloom. I shall have but to call Alex back to me, and we can be happy together again, and taste the sweets of life again, as we did in our brief, bright honeymoon. Poverty and love cannot live long together, but love with plenty of money, that is paradise. The fortune dimly veiled though it is, seems very easy to her just now. She is elated by her uncle's evident admiration of her. She has made just the impression that she would have wished to make upon that fate-disposing relative. To follow up that impression will be simple enough. Has she not been told of her winning ways, of those small fascinations which make a woman powerful for good or evil? Has she not always been her Uncle Robert's favourite, everybody's favourite without effort on her own part, while Marion, painfully anxious to please, has been looked on rather as a nuisance, a vivacious nonentity of whom one might easily have too much? Mr. Trenchard's carriage calls every afternoon, with its coachman and footman in respectable Puritan drab liveries, to take the two young ladies for an airing. Mr. Trenchard himself rarely making any use of the equipage, which he keeps rather as an appendage of his state than for pleasure or convenience. It is very agreeable to Sybil to drive up the long street with its ascending scale of social importance, from the shabby old houses at Uncle Robert's end of the town to the stately stone mansions above Bar. Very agreeable to pass the elite, whom Marion has just begun to know, and salutes with delighted becks and bows, but whom Sybil surveys with a stony stare, affecting to have not the slightest notion who they are. "That Thornthorpe girl is handsomer than ever," says Colonel Stormont to his wife, whom he is driving in a pony carriage a size or two larger than a washing basket. "She is pretty sure to come in for a tidy share of the old fellow's money, I should think. Not a bad match for Frederick." Frederick is the hope of the Stormonts, great at cricket, croquet and athletics, fire brigade and volunteer rifle corps, a youth with very thin legs and not much body, who wears a cutaway coat that just clears his hips and has never been seen in an overcoat, or without a flower in his buttonhole. "No family," says Mrs. Stormont, pursing up her lips. "Family be bothered," remarks the Colonel. "Old Trenchard is rolling in money. What's the good of a family? It won't keep a roof over your head, or pay the tax-gatherer. Commerce is the thing nowadays. If Fred doesn't marry a rich woman pretty soon, he'll have to go into commerce. You ought to take notice of those Thornthorpe girls." "I'll call next week," replies Mrs. Stormont obediently. Sybil's beauty is the talk of the town. Redcastle is suddenly awakened to the consciousness of loveliness that scarcely moved it to admiration 2 years ago, although the girl's beauty had then the bloom and freshness of unchastened youth. Perhaps she is really lovelier now. Sorrow and passion have passed there, and left the exalted look of an awakened soul where there was before only girlish innocence, curious and wondering about a world of which it knew nothing. She has eaten of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. The mystery of life has been revealed to her. Be sure that Eve's beauty had a deeper meaning after she came out by the fatal gate where the angel with the flaming sword kept watch and ward. The carriage comes at the week's end to fetch Miss Faunthorpe and her belongings, to the tribulation of her young sister Jenny, who has had so much of Marion lately that she is deeply grieved to lose Sybil. "It will be ever so much worse for me when you're gone," she says. "You do stand up for a fellow sometimes. She'll be sending me upstairs for a handkerchief or her keys 3 times an hour, and making me crimp her hair till my fingers ache and unpick her old dresses. I wish Uncle Trenchard would let me go with you. I shouldn't cost much or be in the way. And now Uncle Robert says I'm not to go to school anymore because it makes me vulgar. And Marion is to go on with my education. A nice education it will be. I don't believe she knows when William the Conqueror came over or who invented potatoes." Sybil tears herself from the lamenting damsel, kisses Uncle Robert with a plaintive little look, more expensive of gratitude than many a lengthy oration, and takes her place in the barouche, which becomes her as a frame does a picture, and seems as much her attribute as Juno's car to the goddess. "Goodbye, poverty," she says to herself as the chestnuts throw up their forelegs as if they were playing cup and ball and dash off towards the bar. "It shall go hard with me if my name is not written in Uncle Trenchard's will before long." End of chapter 10. Read by Adrian Stroet, Turks and Caicos Islands.